Today we are making one of New Mexico's most celebrated dishes called Carne Adovada, in which pork is braised in a very simple chili-based sauce. Now, to make an authentic Carne Adovada, you can't just use any kind of dried chilies. You have to use New Mexican dried chilies, which were first bred at New Mexico State University back in 1913, and still today, by law, must be grown within the state borders of New Mexico. And luckily, you can find New Mexican chilies everywhere, even at the supermarkets up here in Boston.
That's right, and this recipe is simple and delicious, but it's definitely all about the chilies. So we have here 4 ounces of New Mexican dried chilies. This is what they look like in the package, kind of dark.
And they look good and flexible.
They are.
Which is key when buying chilies. You don't want to buy chilies that are tough and brittle and dry. You want them to be flexible.
That's right. So to prep them, I'm just gonna take the top off. This is the way I like to get the seeds out. I know a lot of people have their own methods. This kind of works for me, right? Just empty it out.
Yep.
And I do kind of give it a little cut down the middle just to make sure I got it all out.
And if you get a few seeds in there, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, some will stick. That's okay. I'm just gonna cut it into 1-inch pieces.
All right.
The total amount is 4 ounces of chili.
Okay, well, that's a lot of chilies.
This dish is primarily made of chilies, so all those chilies are actually very important, very useful. All right. We're all set there. Now, typically, when we're working with dried chilies, we toast them. In this case, we're gonna completely skip that step because we wanna preserve the freshness and the brightness of the flavor. Instead, I'm gonna steep them in 4 cups of boiling water.
And that's just gonna soften the chili peppers and eventually puree to a smooth texture.
That's right. You just make sure they're all covered with water, right? Nice and submerged. And then we're gonna let them steep for 30 minutes.
All right.
And I'm gonna put this aside here, and we can start talking about our pork.
The main ingredient.
Oh yeah. This is 4 pounds of boneless pork butt that I'm cutting into 1.5-inch pieces.
There's a lot of fat in a pork butt. How much are you gonna take off?
Not a lot. I like to have a little fat in there for the flavor.
Now, pork butt also goes by a few other names. It goes by picnic shoulder, Boston butt, but it actually all comes from the same part of the pig, which is the shoulder. All right, so while Elle continues to cut up that pork, let's take a minute to talk about New Mexican chilies, which are the key ingredient in this recipe. Now, they have a very earthy, sun-roasted, slightly acidic flavor, but they don't pack a big punch in terms of spiciness. The spiciness of a chili is measured on something called the Scoville scale, which was named after its inventor, Wilbur Scoville, back in 1912. And it allots every pepper with something called a Scoville heat unit, which is the amount of sugar water it takes to remove any spiciness from the human palate. So the higher the Scoville unit heat rating, the spicier the pepper. Let's take a look at some peppers. Here on this end, we have a bell pepper. It locks in at a whopping 0 Scoville heat unit because it's not spicy at all. On the other end, we have cayenne. This logs in at around 50,000 Scoville heat units. In the middle, we have a jalapeno at about 5,000 Scoville units. Last but definitely not least, the New Mexican chili with just 1,000 Scoville heat units. So it has good flavor and it's not too spicy.
Hey, Julia. I just finished the pork.
All right.
Cutting it into 1.5-inch pieces. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of salt. This is gonna help season the meat and help it to retain the moisture while we cook it.
And good to note that she's using kosher salt. If you were gonna use table salt, you should use half the amount.
All right, so I'm just gonna stir it in there really well. Make sure all the meat is covered. All right, so I'm just gonna put it in the fridge for at least an hour.
Okay.
Okay, so we have our pork. It's all set to go. It's time to make our sauce.
My favorite part.
Yes, so we got our 4 ounces of chili peppers that we're soaking for 30 minutes. And we're just gonna strain off the liquid. I'm just gonna add these peppers to the blender. This is the base of our sauce, so we're starting right here. So to make our flavorful, delicious sauce, we have to add a few things.
Just a few more things.
Just a few. So we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of honey.
So a little sweetness.
A little sweetness. That's spicy sweet. That's a great combination. I have 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, 5 cloves of garlic.
Just a little garlic.
Just a little. We're very modest in our garlic. We have 2 teaspoons of Mexican oregano, 2 teaspoons of cumin, and half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, because we need more pepper.
Well, like you said, the New Mexican chilies don't have a lot of heat, so you need a little cayenne to ramp it up a bit.
Just a little kick. And we have a teaspoon of cloves. And finally, a teaspoon of salt. All right, so we have all our herbs and aromatics in there. We're just gonna make it into a paste to start.
So that's a thick looking paste.
It is, and it only takes 30 seconds to get there. Not a lot of time at all. It's just to start. We just want to give everything a fair chance to get blended in there before we start to add liquids and make it into our sauce.
All right.
And speaking of liquids, we have here 2 cups of soaking liquid from our chili peppers.
Because there's flavor in that liquid. You don't want to throw it away.
Look at that. That's nothing but flavor.
Right.
We need all of that. All right, I'm gonna get started.
Okay.
I'm gonna start by adding 1 cup of liquid to get everything going. And then I'm gonna add up to a 1/4 cup of liquid to keep everything moving uniformly in the blender.
You got it.
And we're gonna let it blend on high speed for another minute.
I can smell that from here.
Can you imagine how it's gonna taste when it's done? All right, so I think we're ready to move on to the next step.
All right.
We're gonna start by adding the pork to our Dutch oven. And we're gonna add the sauce that we created. And this sauce, as you can see, is a little thick. It still has a little rustic texture to it because we didn't blend those peppers until they were non-existent. We have some little bitty pieces in there.
It smells divine.
It really does smell great.
Right, and as you mentioned, the sauce is on the thick side, but that's okay because a lot of moisture is gonna come out of the pork as it braises.
All right. So I'm just gonna give this a stir, make sure all the pork is covered, make sure no pieces are sticking together. We want every single piece to have some of this delicious sauce. All right, so we're all set. I'm just gonna bring it to a boil over high heat.
All right. It is smelling good.
Oh yeah, and that came to a boil relatively quickly. So I'm gonna put the lid on it and it's gonna go in the oven on the lower middle rack at 325 degrees for up to 2.5 hours.
Sounds good.
Oh.
It smells good.
I always get so excited at this
Don't
part.
drop the pot, Al.
Don't drop the pot. All right, let's take a little look-see.
Oh,
Oh, wow. That looks great.
that smells so good.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna use my fork, test it for doneness, so it's going right through. Oh, some even pulled off. I think it's ready.
All right.
I'm gonna give it a stir because I wanna reconstitute the sauce and I wanna get some of this fond off of the pot.
Because the fond on the side of the pot, that's good caramelized flavor, and you want to get that back into the sauce.
All right, so it's been 10 minutes. It's cooled. Our sauce has thickened. Can I make your plate
Please.
for you? All right. That looks so amazing.
Oh, a little extra sauce too, if you wouldn't mind.
I don't mind at all.
Oh, yeah.
That looks delicious.
Thank you. Here's a nice warm tortilla for you. Wasn't that gorgeous?
Gorgeous. Would you like a lime?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you. Oh,
that's great.
all right.
All right, I'm gonna try mine without tortilla first.
Oh, look at the meat. It just breaks apart with the fork.
So tender.
That sauce is something else.
That pork just melts in your mouth.
The sauce has a deep, rich, hearty flavor, just a little bit of heat. And I think that's from the cayenne you put in.
I think so.
But it's really well balanced with the vinegar and the honey.
It is.
It's just got sort of a sun-drenched chili pepper flavor on that luscious pork.
And it still tastes very bright and fresh, even though it braised for hours. I'm packing my bags.
Oh, Elle, this is so good.
I'm moving to New Mexico.
So to make an authentic carne adovada, start with New Mexican chilies. Seed the chilies and rehydrate them in boiling water. Then cut up a 4-pound pork butt into stew meat and toss with salt. Build a flavor-packed braising liquids using the chilies, honey, garlic, and a few other spices, along with the water left over from the soaked chilies. Braise the pork in the oven until tender and serve with flour tortillas and lime wedges. From America's Test Kitchen to your kitchen, a killer recipe for carne adovada. I could see eating this for breakfast with an egg on it. I could see eating it for lunch and a taco. I could see serving it over rice and beans.
So many things.
Thanks for watching America's Test Kitchen. What'd you think?
Well, leave a comment and let us know which recipes you're excited to make, or you can just say hello.
You can find links to today's recipes and reviews in the video description.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
See you later.
I'll see you later.